Are you there, ladies? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better? I'm just going to keep talking about nothing for a minute until somebody chimes in and says, yes, I can hear you better. Praise the Lord. Or, no, Beth, it's the very same. You sound the same. My deepest apologies, ladies. We tried to do this without bothering people. Clearly, we need to bother people and ask them, please help us. We cannot do it all. Interesting thing is, I just read today in my devotion about how the Lord made the woman fit for the man so that their weaknesses are helped by our strengths and vice versa. So clearly we need the strength of somebody with some technical abilities to help us. So what do you think? Can you hear me better? Is it louder? Is it clearer? Or is it the same? If you've ever been to the eye doctor and they say over and over, better, worse, or about the same? Better, worse, about the same. Okay, I'm going to assume it's better until somebody else pops in. If you missed the whole first introduction, it was fabulous. It was some of my best work. So if you couldn't hear it, I'm sad. I'm sad for you because it was fabulous. It was life changing. We could stop and just go home now. Clearly, I'm joking. It's better. Amy says it's better. We can trust her. All right. Thanks, Amy. We need a team of people. All right, y'all. Now we get to the good stuff anyway, and you can hear me before the good stuff. Do I get excited? Yes, I do. Y'all, I'm so excited. I have to pull my sleeves up. We're going to start in Genesis 1, the creation account. We're going to read just in the beginning. We're going to read Genesis 1. I'm going to try to get this thing right so I don't, mess anything up. 1 through 5, okay? Go ahead. I'm sure you're already there because it's the easiest part in the whole Bible to find, isn't it? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Okay, so what we just read, first day of creation, friends. 1 minute there is darkness, there is nothing, and then with a word, bam, there is light, illumination. God's first creative work is the ability for us to see all the creative works that follow. The ability for us to see what else he was about to create. Think about this. Without the first work of creation, we couldn't see the rest of the works of creation. You'll notice in verse 4 that God said what about his very first creation? It was good. God said, that's good. It's almost like he stepped back like a painter who's been painting and working, and he said, looks pretty good. It's good. He noted the goodness. He sits back and takes pleasure in the work, the way an artist might step back and think, man, this is going pretty well. Let's see what else. Let's do some more. But God goes on to further develop his creative work, right? He gave the light and the darkness boundaries. Now, it's so interesting that he didn't completely dispel the darkness, did he? He kept it. And we tend to think of darkness as negative, like he should have just done away with it and only had light. But clearly, both were needed. Without dark, could we even really appreciate the light? There's a place and a purpose for both of them in the first day of creation. And with that, the first day ends with light and dark. Foundational creation elements. We're going to go on with this next chunk. It's going to be really long because we're going to read days 2 through, I believe, 5. And then I'm going to break it down a little bit for you, and we'll get into it in a little more detail and depth, okay? So just stick with me. 2 through 5. I gotta pick up my honking Bible over here. Hey, the good news about me needing to be closer to you is I feel like I'm all up in your face. Is that true? Do you feel like I'm all up in your face? Genesis 1, 6 through 23. And God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the expanse and separated the waters so that the waters were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven. And there was evening and there was morning the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants, yielding seeds, and fruit trees, bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. And God said, let the water swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens. So God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning on the fifth day. So we saw the first day, the light, the darkness, and for the next 5 days, he goes on to create, to make, and to design, right? He just continues almost the pattern that he set forth in that very first day, when he simply speaks a word, and bam, boom, in an instant, it comes to fruition. Can you even imagine? I can't get my head around it. But he didn't stop with day one with the light and the darkness. He goes on, and for the next 4 days, does the same thing. He speaks, and it is so. Do you get the feel, the sense that this is the King of Kings, the King of the universe? And he only utters a word, and his commands instantly spring up, sprout up, develop, show themselves. It's an incredible, incredible, powerful picture, but it's also an incredibly good picture of a good creator. I want you to think about this, the things that he designed, the heavens, right? The dome, the atmosphere, what we see above, the blue sky, the clouds, the land and the sea, solid land to walk on, oceans to sail, waves to ride, mountains to climb, waterfalls, rivers, plateaus, rolling hills, and seashores, y'all. Every bit of that. Vegetation, right? Plants, beautiful, lush, green. Can I just tell you, I lived in New Mexico for a while, and New Mexico, beloveds, you know my heart is still there with you. But can I also tell you, when I moved back to Southeast Alabama and I walked out my front door and it was green, canopies of green trees and lush green grass and every kind of beautiful flowering bush, my heart sang, God created, sprung up every bit of those beautiful green trees. And then how about this? Apple trees, orange groves, grapevines, strawberry fields, avocados, y'all. I like some guacamole. Anybody else? Watermelon, cucumbers, rosemary, mint, dill, tomatoes, peonies, roses, daffodils, honeysuckle, gardenias, y'all. Gardenias blooming around my house. Man, all that stuff. And then he goes on, the sun, the moon, and the stars, which give us seasons and tides, working hours and resting hours, right? Rhythm. Just rhythm. Then he filled the sky and the seas with fish and birds. Just close your eyes and think for a moment. Bluebirds, baby birds, goldfish, catfish, fried catfish, minnows, dolphins. Think about enormous whales, pink flamingos, tiny hummingbirds, all manner of critters in the sky and in the sea. Such diversity, such generosity, right? Man. And then he doesn't stop there, does he? Now let's go on to Genesis 1:24 and 25. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth according to their kinds." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the ground according to its kind. And God saw what? That it was good. So after the first 5 days, on that sixth day, he begins by filling the land that he's created. So think lizards, lions, giraffes, zebras, y'all, Labrador retrievers and kittens, chipmunks, St. Bernards. You know, he could have created such a bland space, friends. Just a few of each kind, but he didn't. He made more than we could explore in 100 lifetimes. There are still depths that human eyes have not seen and heights that human feet have not touched. You haven't tasted all the food, dear ones. You haven't smelled all the smells or seen all the sights. So diverse and abundant and generous is the land, the earth, the environment that God created. We couldn't see it all. Couldn't see it all. But there's still more. Genesis 1:26 through 31. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Okay, I want to stop right there just a minute. What does it mean, our? Foundation of the Trinity, right? God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Let us not for 1 minute forget that our Savior was also the Creator, okay? I think it's Colossians. I have to look at my notes. Where's my notes? Where'd it go? Yeah, Colossians 1:6 tells us that for by him all things are created, both in the heavens and on the earth, visible and invisible. All things have been created through him and for him. So don't you for a minute forget that Jesus was there, creating a part of all of this, right? Okay, so keep going. Let me start back at 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over the livestock and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of man, God, he created them, male and female. And God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth." Think about that just for a minute. Every plant that is over all the earth, you shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth and to every bird of the heavens, to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning the sixth day. Y'all, on the sixth day, God shaped a bit of dirt into the form of a man. All of a sudden, eyeballs, eyelashes, fingers, ears to hear the wind, nerves in our skin to feel the wind, teeth to chew the food, tongues to taste it, feet and hands, arms to hold with, cheeks to have kissed, all the senses required to enjoy the rest of creation. But unlike the rest of creation, everything else he created, he breathed his very own breath into that shell of a human to begin that life. People are set apart from creation. And he created us. He created women with all of our differences and peculiarities. I don't know how to say that word. He created us. He initiated human relationships and marriage. Did you catch that? When he said, I want you to be fruitful and multiply. Inherent with that is relationships. He told them to have children. So he initiated marriage and then that parent-child relationship. He said, go have children. And thus we get babies. Newborn skin, right? Little brown curls and hold you mama, and little boys that grow up to be bigger than their mothers. And then with the design of children and generations, y'all, came some other really precious relationships. Can you think of them for a moment? Yeah. With the idea, with the initiation of children came siblings, friendships, aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews, special people, right? How about this one? Nanas and momos and mimis and granddaddies and papas. Yeah, that was all God's design. Doting grandparents, that was God's idea, right? All of these things. And what did he say about them? Very good. Everything else had been good. Everything else showed his goodness. But when he created people and he ordained marriage and relationships and parents and family, he said something different. He said what? He said, this is very good. This is a very good thing. One more day to look at, then we'll start wrapping things up. Genesis 2, 1-3. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done on creation. And so finally we get to day 7, and we know that it is what called Sabbath. It's the seventh day. He set it apart to be a holy day. And what did he do? Just sat back and rested and enjoyed creation. Now, was he overtaxed? Was he exhausted? I'm going to go no on that. Not at all. Even rest was a part of creation before the fall, right? Both work and rest were a part of God's good design, his perfect creation before the fall. And he set the pattern himself, didn't he? Yeah. God's creation work on days 1-6 was so good and so delightful and so complete that day 7 is just a day to reflect and enjoy God's goodness. And y'all, that's a Bible study for another day on how desperately we need Sabbath. We need a day to simply appreciate God and his goodness. Like I said, that's a Bible study for another day. So here we have it, foundations of creation, the story of how God created all that we see. There's 3 things I want to leave you with tonight. The first one is this. God created everything in the universe. And you're going, duh, like you've known that. You've taught that in Sunday school. If any of you have taught anything in church, I'm sure you have taught the creation account, and you're thinking, couldn't we have come up with a more unique section of scripture to study, Beth? But can I tell you, the heartbeat, the message that the Lord has been constantly driving into my heart over the last year is this. my goodness is so evident in creation, stop and look at it. Stop and consider that I created everything you see. By my powerful word, I made all this. It seems so obvious, doesn't it? It just seems so obvious. We tell our children all the time, God made the birds. See the trees? Oh, God gave you hands, and He gave you feet, and He gave you a tongue to taste. We say these things to our preschoolers. We believe these things, but has it become so obvious that we have begun to overlook it? You know, it's kind of like my house. I don't know about you, but when company's not coming, there's one level of cleanliness, right? There's one level of straighten up. But if somebody's coming over, all of a sudden I start looking at my house through a whole different lens, because I had become desensitized to some things, like, oh, that area over there it's cobwebs up in that corner. I hadn't even noticed it. Oh man, how did this corner get so junky? What is all this stuff on my desk? You know, it's like suddenly when somebody new is coming into your home, you just look at your house differently. You see all the things that normally are not at all on your radar. And I wonder if God's creation is so obvious that we've begun to overlook it. We've begun to take it for granted. And we've ceased to allow it to testify to us about who God is. So that's why I wanted to start here tonight. I want to look at God's first expression of His goodness in His creation, y'all. Everything around us is testifying and pointing to the goodness of God. Yet we've allowed it to become mundane, haven't we? Unappreciated. Closing our eyes to the symphony, singing about the goodness of our great King. Yet we wonder why we feel so far away from Him sometimes. Could it be that we need to taste and see again His goodness in the simple creation? But we call it simple, but yet isn't. Think of all the things that I've described, all the animals, all the plants, all the diversity. Think about the creative genius that goes in to all of those things. And the systems, how they function and how they multiply. It's extraordinary. And it all points to Him. Yet I wonder if we haven't turned a blind eye and we're no longer tasting His goodness in His creation. You think about a peach just for a minute. It's the last time you bit into a grape and really thought about how that tasted and felt in your mouth. I looked at the shape of a magnolia tree, or sensed the smell of a gardenia when you walk by. We have baby birds in our mailbox, of all places, a little cubby beneath it. And Anna was so excited, so thrilled. She's wanted me to come see. And I brushed it off, and then I finally walked out there with her to pacify her and satisfy her. And I looked in and saw the wonder. 3 little birds, little beaks pointed up, just no feathers on them, just skin, you know. And here their mother, without any instruction, had created them an entire little environment there, totally designed to protect them. She knows how to take care of them and what to feed them. And the marvelousness of that. But have we ceased to notice? Has it become mundane? I think it has. And I think we need to reawaken, re-see, open our eyes, but that's for another point. So my first thing I want you to take away is just that God created everything in the universe. With His powerful word, He spoke it. It is from Him. It is of Him. He made it all. Cannot forget that. Number 2, everything God created is an expression of His goodness, y'all. Think about creation for a minute. If you can see outside, I pray that you'll just peep out there. Think about how beautiful and intricate and brilliant how orderly for my type A's, how abundant, how generous. You think about all the trees. And God said, every one of them are for you. Every single one of them. I want you to enjoy them. Have at it. Taste the apple. Taste the pineapple. Taste the mango. Taste the cantaloupe. Have some banana. How about a grape? Watermelon, anybody? All of those delicious, taste bud exploding things were God's idea and God's gift, right? Yeah. Abundant, generous, delightful to all the senses. And think about how His creation offers both strength and comfort and shade. Think about a tree, y'all. Offers us so many things that we need, not just the food, but the tree itself. I mean, come a hot day in July and the kids are playing outside, what am I looking for? It's not the sunny spot, it's the shady spot, right? And that same tree can be taken to make shelter, offers its strength. Think about refreshing water. Think about the power of rivers. Think about the wonder of a waterfall. Think about the thundering power of the ocean. So powerful that it can decimate a mighty ship. And yet at the same time, the same God who created that kind of power also created a delicate, feeble, newborn lamb. Talk about a God who has more than one side, more than one facet to His goodness, not a faucet. Talk about a good God who's expressed Himself in all of these good ways, y'all. And here's something. Every delight, every comfort, every thrill, every adventure, every rest, and every opportunity for enjoyment is birthed straight from the mind and heart of God. I have to read that one more time because I could never remember it. And the Lord pierced me with this today. Every delight, every comfort, every thrill, every adventure, every rest, and every opportunity for enjoyment is birthed straight from the mind and the heart of God. Yet we walk around acting like God doesn't care about our happiness or our enjoyment, our satisfaction in life. Are you kidding me? That's not the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible, y'all, created the entire earth more than I could have ever described tonight. And He didn't have to. He didn't have any need to. And then He created humans and placed them right in that environment and said, enjoy, make yourself at home, try some of all of it. You tell me He doesn't love. He loves when we take enjoyment from the things He created. Are you kidding me? If you've ever created anything in your life, you know what I'm talking about here. Let's say you've made a cake. You don't make a cake just to look at it and not share it, unless you're real into decorating, then maybe so. But when I make a cake, y'all, I can hardly wait for my husband to cut that first piece, right? I want him to cut, and I want to watch his face. And I'm hoping, I hope he likes it, I hope he likes it. And I want, when he takes that bite, I want his eyes to roll back in the back of his head, and I want to hear a little sound come out of his mouth, you know? And my children the same way, and anybody else that comes to my house, I want to feed them something, and I want to see them enjoy it. And God is saying, I have created a beautiful place for you, for you. I didn't need it. It's an expression of my goodness and my generosity. And I put you right in the middle of it because I want you to enjoy it. And I want you to see that all of this that I created is an expression of who I am. And I've given it to you to enjoy. Do you notice that? I think it was in, I don't know what verse it was in. Go read the whole thing again. You'll see it. He talks about, the Lord told Adam and Eve, I'm giving this to you. All of these plants for food, all of these animals, all of this. You have dominion over it. You're in charge of it. It means you get to reap its rewards and enjoy it. You tell me that's not a good God. You tell me that's not a God who just delights to offer good things to his children. He does. He absolutely does. He spent himself for 6 days creating all manner of good things for us to enjoy. We could spend our whole lifetime and not discover all the wonder of the creation he has made, friends. It's so good, and all of it comes right from our heart, his heart. He created everything we could ever want, need, or enjoy. Now there's a counterfeit for every bit of that, and we're going to talk next week about it. He created an environment so lush and so perfect and so satisfying. And he said, here it is. It's for you. Talk about a giver of good gifts, right? Here's my third point. This is what we'll wrap up with tonight. When we train our mind to connect the gifts of creation with the Creator, we will experience his goodness in deeper and deeper ways. I think that we have begun to disconnect creation from the Creator, right? We forget that all of it is a good gift from him. Every piece of fruit and every vegetable and every medium well steak, everything is a gift from him. But the more we connect his gifts with himself, the more I believe we're going to experience him and see, man, he's so good. And the more that we see he's good, the more we are going to want of him, and the more satisfied we're going to be in that relationship. Let me tell you something, a couple of stories. One, I dated some fellas before Nathan, and when he came around and I got to really know him, and I began to see what kind of man he is, and the way he acted toward me, the way he treated me so well. He was so good to me. In fact, he was better to me than any other man had been. And so naturally, when he said, will you marry me, I about tripped over myself trying to say yes. Why? Because somebody's been that good to me. I want them for myself. No, I don't want to pass you by and settle for somebody else. No, I want you. You are good, and you have expressed your goodness towards me. So I want to stay with that, right? I want a covenant relationship. Let's make this thing permanent, because I love your goodness. You've treated me well. The more that we see that God has been good to us, and not just in creation, y'all, we're going to look at 5 more ways, okay, of seeing God's goodness and experiencing God's goodness. When we see his goodness more, we're going to desire more of him. It's like taking that first bite of cheesecake. I have never tasted one bite of cheesecake and put down that fork. There's no way. In fact, once you cut that piece of cheesecake, you better take the rest of the cheesecake away from me, because I don't have a stop button, okay? I could just eat that sucker to death. And so it is with the Lord. When we taste him, we see him, we experience him, take him in, nothing on earth will do except more of him. Nothing on earth will do. I've said to him, Lord, just don't leave me. Just please promise that I'm always going to have you. And he has, in his graciousness, promised that to his children. Because I could live without a lot of things, but I could not live without the goodness I have experienced of the Lord. One more story I want to tell you, and I couldn't decide if I want to tell the story or not, so I didn't put it in my notes. So I hope it's not better suited for another night, because then I'm going to be sad that I used it tonight. But we'll just trust the Lord with it, shall we? A lot of you know my story, and you've heard it, so you can just go ahead and sign off now on this part. But it's worth telling to those who haven't. But we were in the process of adopting our 4th child. We had 2 biological, 1 adopted, and we were about to adopt our 4th. And about that time, it was in June, I'll have you know, 3 years ago, And I said to Nathan, well, I am at capacity. I think 4 is enough. I think that that's all I can do, my friend. Like, this is it. So we cleaned out our shed and gave away all our baby stuff because I said no more babies for me. I'm going to raise these 4. Well, it was about 3.5, 4 weeks later while I was teaching a Bible study on water walking, and the theme of it was when God asks you to do things that you don't think you can do. Right in the middle of that Bible study, I found out I was expecting a 5th child at 38 years old. So I'm just going to be honest with you. To my great shame, I was not excited about that little baby brewing in my belly. I was scared to death. I was already overwhelmed with life. This did not feel in that moment like a gift. I wondered at God's timing. I wondered at His plan. I wondered a lot of things, and I cried a lot of tears. But can I tell you, when that baby girl was born, the Lord did something in my heart that I cannot explain other than to say to you, I held her and I knew that she was a special gift from God. I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it, talking about it right now. I knew she was a particular gift from God to show me about His goodness. And that's exactly what she's done. She's been medicine for my heart, healing things that I didn't even know needed healing. So the Lord imposed that sweet little gift on me. I didn't ask for her, but I'm so glad He did. And can I tell you that through her I've learned this about the goodness of God. Not everything that He gives us always looks like it's for our good. But He's wise and He is good. And so every gift that He gives us is just that. It is a gift for our good. And I see in her the goodness of surrendering my will in favor of a God who's so good He would give me her, even though I despaired at the thought in the beginning. Y'all, He gave us the good things of creation, pine trees, and sunsets, and rainbows, and cool winds on hot days, and pineapple, and children running outside after fireflies in the evening. He gave us all that, knowing that we were going to ruin that good plan. Talk about a good God. He could have saved Himself a lot of trouble. He could have saved Himself watching His Son die. Christ could have saved Himself the cross by not creating, darlings. And He did it anyway. He created this kingdom for Himself, people for Himself. I pray that, God, I pray right now for my sisters listening to this, and I pray that as they hear Your word spoken through my lips, that they might be reminded fresh of how good You are, God. Your design, Your generosity, Your faithfulness. Oh, Lord, open our eyes to see Your goodness, the good gifts You've given us. Let us be so captivated by them, so enamored with You through them. Oh, God, turn our hearts to You. Tune our heart to sing Your praise, Lord. Thank You for these women, Lord. I pray that You bless this week by opening their eyes daily to Your goodness. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, beloveds, that's the end of session 1. I can't wait to be back with you next week. A couple of things in case you couldn't hear it all. The first, we went live, and then we realized nobody could hear me, so we hooked up a little thingamajig here, and then we went live again. So if you missed the first part or couldn't hear me, if you're with a group, take a picture, post it on here. I'm going to give you a free dessert for next week, and let me tell you, talk about make your taste buds dance. This one will make your taste buds dance. So send me a picture, post me a picture. Let me know where you're watching from. Know that I love you so much. I've been praying for you all week, and I can hardly wait till next week to be back with you. Good night, dear ones.